I want to first thank God for me being here. And I'm praying for everyone out there. And again, I ask for the same, that you pray for me as well in my continued walk of faith. Um, it's an urgent matter that I have you on here for. Um, I think one of the congressmen called it good trouble. Unfortunately, a person like me that's in good trouble, especially when it comes into civil rights and trying to fight for your rights, um, you have to have funds with that, unfortunately. Um, and I'm a welfare recipient. I'm on Social Security, point blank. It is what it is. Um, but I'm also dealing with issues here that people have heard about. So let me just get into this as I already have it written down. But my main thing is to get donations. I'm only asking for a $1 donation to log on to www.terrybrewer.com. There's a donation tab there. Um, all donations made are not tax deductible. Um, that you can't claim it for that. If you want to sow, please sow. Um, but I thank you in advance for your time. Um, I pray that I can count on you to forward this um, to as many people as possible. I need you to get. I need to get. I need to get attorney to look at this case. You see, I need to get an attorney to look at the case. And so far, it can't be 5.5 years of not being able to get an attorney. It's impossible. And as far as the case is concerned, no, it's very sealed. As a matter of fact, it's online. Um, when I ask for donations, I put my whole self on the line. You'll see it says the report. 168 pages. So you will be able to read for yourself of everything actually that's been going on. Some people have been asking me what's been happening. I haven't been around. That's about 5.5 years of what's been happening, what's been going on. So what I want to do in my statement, I want to update you on the situation regarding the domestic violence with Broward County. Domestic violence petitions that I've been making. I just made 3 more recently. Again, this is a family issue. It is abuse against me. And they denied a total of 6 now in 12 months, I believe. But people have a right to a hearing too as well. I haven't been able to have that right. It is my belief, because of the things that I have within the petitions that I'm filing, those things open up a Pandora's box. So nobody wants to have a petition to protect Terry because the information Terry is saying can't be said because we have to investigate. So let's just toss him and be done with it. That's how I receive it. So I'll give you an update about that, about altered. They were recreated. They were forged documents that the clerk of courts replaced with my documents. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but it's a very big deal for petitions and when evidence is submitted to be replaced or any of that matter. So stunning allegations again of a cover up by very known governmental officials. That's what I'm going to be talking about too as well. And I'll be giving my thoughts on the 20th congressional district that's here. Um, and my congratulations to everyone. I was trying to make this in advance to actually, hopefully, kind of at least so people can be aware of their decision of what they're and who they're voting for. So this will be for the next time. And hopefully, we will all learn something from it. Number three is how the HUD Equal Opportunity employees intentionally allowed my retaliation claim against the city of Fort Lauderdale, the United States Postal Service, Broward Health, wrongful death claim, and Walmart expire. Um, in essence, you have a certain amount of days to file a retaliation claim. If you don't do it within a certain time frame, legally you can't. By law you can't get it back. You're not allowed to sue or make a claim against anything. It'll be thrown out. So what they did was they held it. But moving on to it, in addition, refusing to basically forward the claim, they intentionally held it, my retaliation claim, because because of the information and the retaliation claim, it has to be forwarded, even though it's HUD housing, it has to be forwarded to the FBI. No matter what, it has to be forwarded to the FBI. And they can work in conjunction with each other, but the FBI has to be involved. If the FBI came involved and realized that certain people within housing were actually really, doing particular things, it wouldn't be good. They would be basically telling them themselves, HUD and local. So I'm just trying to get an attorney now. I think everybody who knows me, I've always been a go-getter, been able to look over things over and over again to make sure it's done. Very methodical about things. It's draining. It's draining me because not just there. I have two sides going on. I have a side that when I'm here, it's draining, and then the side when you go out, it's draining. And both are intentional. Both are intentional. So I'll get into that later on. But to make a plea also, I'm going to make a plea to President Biden and to Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm going to make a plea to them. I'm also going to make a plea to the military. And excuse me, as I look down and read my notes, I want to stay on track so I don't prolong anything or hold anyone. But I want to also make a plea to the military and to people from the intelligence community, and making a plea to even people within local government employees, and members of the press, because this information that there's no doubt that this is already known. Why it's not talked about, why it's not out yet, I have no idea, but this is known. And so, fifthly, it would be how you can pretty much help me even forward. I'll probably go a little bit more into it in depth, but for those who don't know me, my name is Terry Brewer Jr. I'm a 43-year-old African-American male residing in Fort Lauderdale off of Panther Lane, which is Northwest 11th Street and Northwest 25th Avenue, who's been experiencing racial discrimination, retaliation, and gaslighting, psychological and emotional abuse for the past 5.5 years, because I made a choice to move in a predominantly white neighborhood, which was the Camden Los Olas Jason Reed it was racial steering involved. So because the gaslighting occurred, the racial discrimination occurred, retaliation occurred because I made a choice to move in a predominantly white neighborhood with a Section 8 housing voucher. There are no words to describe my experience. You know, I was writing a letter to my pastor, Pastor Arthur Jackson III, Antioch Missionary Baptist Church in Miami Gardens. And I was writing to him, and I was trying to, if it wasn't for just that moment of me trying to express something that you can't, of an overload of what's been happening to you, it's very hard to express it. But I found a passage that I would like to share with you, a scripture from the Open Bible, New Living Translation. And it's from Proverbs 29:24. If you assist a thief, you're only hurting yourself. You will be punished if you report the crime, but cursed if you don't. If you assist the thief, you will only, if you assist the thief, you will only be hurting yourself. You're only hurting yourself if you assist the thief. You will be punished if you report the crime, but cursed if you don't. That's the way I feel right now. But if I can go back to it later on at the end of it, to my why, I have a why. I just have to remember it. I'm pretty tired, but I have to remember it. So, nearly a long life resident of South Florida, I consider myself to be a smart, humble business entrepreneur, and the honor of being a member of Mensa, accepted into Mensa in 2015. And I have the privilege of volunteering at Guardian Ad Litem, Broward Guardian Ad Litem, state of Florida Guardian Ad Litem program, pretty much. Also known as court appointed special advocates. And it's serving in the 17th Judicial Circuit Court in Broward County, of course. And we serve as a voice for abused, neglected, abandoned kids in the dependency court. And we're appointed by a juvenile court judge. I've always been so thrilled about Guardian Lighting because I've volunteered for many organizations. That's what I do. That's my way of paying taxes. Volunteering. But I've never ran into an organization that you are able to, in that moment, intervene. There's always a prevention, then an intervention, but never, or the post, product of something. But you actually get in the middle of the storm with the child. I've never had a program, been a part of a program like that. GAL is the only volunteer organization that empowers everyday citizens as sworn officers of the court and offer judges critical information they need to ensure that each child's rights and needs are being attended to while children are in foster care and child welfare system. If you haven't heard about it, definitely look it up. That if you ever want to help and say how you want to put your hands on something, that is being a part of Guardian Ad Litem is beyond, it's magnified times 100 of how you can help, because you're helping right now, right there. It's not like a program where you helped somebody that went through something. So as officers of the court, we all have legal obligations, ethical obligations, and are tasked to participate to the best of our ability in the functioning of the judicial system. And for me, I think it's one of the highest duties a citizen could ever do, besides volunteering to serve in one of the United States Armed Forces. It's the only, there's nothing else compared to it. Ironically, I feel abandoned. I feel abandoned by my government, leaving me in such a vulnerable position to fend for myself. Some governmental employees have abused their powers by keeping a criminal case covered up as a domestic violence slash civil issue, while some are providing benefits to those, coaching people. Some are even coaching people like my mother and my family and some neighbors, in gaslighting, and what I'd call enhanced constructive eviction. So my information is unfortunately within my knowledge of particular things and my experience with things, experience of the 5 years. And again, it's online. So everything I'm saying here, I'm just going to say it. It's up to you to go online. Don't challenge me. You can challenge me about something that I say, but it's online. TerryBrewer.com, www.terrybrewer.com. It's the report, and you just take your time. And I let it all be there, vulnerable. It is what it is. So unfortunately, I have reason to believe that former President Trump, it's very strong, beyond a reasonable doubt, and it is my opinion. It has nothing to do with guardian ad litem. But former President Trump, former Governor, now Senator Rick Scott, the County Commissioner Dale Holness, Mayor Dean Trentalis, and the County Commissioner Robert McKenzie blocked a multi-jurisdictional investigation and has violated my constitutional rights because I refuse to waive liability against them. His administration, his as in the former Trump's administration, the city of Fort Lauderdale, and Broward County. And they did it for their own personal benefits. To give you the seriousness of why so much has been happening to me, it is because basically it's almost like, what do you have to lose? So the more a person has to lose something according to maybe a violation of something, the more you're going to know how serious things can be with your discrimination claim or any of that stuff. So there is an article by Willis Caruso, HUD Multi-Jurisdictional Investigations, New Risky Business. This was done, I think in 2000. Yeah, it was done in 2000. It's very important. I just want to read two passages, actually. One of them is a multi-jurisdictional investigation means that all departments of HUD may look into each of the programs that may support or affect a development, including all agreements, contracts, grants, and funding sources of any kind. Such an inquiry could be, in effect, open-ended. Here's another. HUD's approach, and again, please go and read it. But the other passage that I want to show you is HUD's approach has been to make HUD's approach has been to make clear that voluntary compliance is desirable, with emphasis on the role of HUD's holding the purse strings for the programs that are critical to the respondents, critical to the cities. So when there is a multi-jurisdictional violation that happens or that goes on, which is a very big deal. Other violations outside of this restricts the access that federal government has to come in, or particular things in searching. There's a more of a restriction. When there is a problem with housing, then let's talk about housing. But when it goes into multi-jurisdictional, no, they can look wherever they want to look at. They can take their time and stay there for as long as they want. This was something that I actually lingered on doing for a long time. Not because of fear, but because of really I love my love for it, the community. Besides, some close mentors, and I was raised by the community. I was raised by whether they like me or not. This city of Fort Lauderdale police officers, multiple city of Fort Lauderdale police officers, and even Broward County Sheriff's Office. So it is what it is, but just so you know that it's a very serious thing to it. And basically, I'm losing myself here. But it is what it is. And it is my belief that the president submitted a bribe to the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County Housing to squash the investigation. That former President Trump submitted a bribe. It's my belief that the former President Trump used my information I submitted to HUD to bribe the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. Anyway, I believe that I've been unjustly targeted as a danger to the community. And again, I have been unjustly targeted as a danger to the community. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to hope for it or anything. It has been since 2017, or I have been definitely targeted as a danger to my community. And after having traveled several various states, including Canada, it's clear to me that what I'm receiving are acts of retaliation that have legally been defined as intervening in disruptive behavior patterns. At least at least the people that are doing it, they were probably given whatever wrong information they were given for them to try to disrupt behavioral pattern that may be bad. It's very hard for me to explain that. But you ever see people, these news stations and stuff, and all of a sudden somebody can say one word or whatever it doesn't, and they click off, they just flip off and be angry and upset and start firing off. Basically, the term "go postal." I believe honestly that the whole going postal and all that stuff are from the professionals. Anytime somebody goes postal, it is from the professionals. Period. When I say professionals, there are professional gaslighters. They're professional people that work for major companies, that work for major attorneys, that work for subdivisions of the government, as we say, that literally are there to put a little pressure on the person while they're filing their claim. I forgot the ambassador from Libya, or I forgot where she is, but there was an ambassador. She wasn't going to resign. I believe she wasn't going to resign, but she did. People called. They feared her life. She not only the fear of life. It's basically, and Trump did it. Trump did it just to get her out. He did it just to get her out. So now, what do you think will happen? Well, you got somebody like me who actually goes up. It reached all the way up to it reached to his administrative, to Ben Carson's office, then Secretary of Housing. So at the end of the day, he used it for his benefit. And the other names that I said, they were involved. To my neighbors, to the city of Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, I am not your enemy. You're being used to cover up, and we're being robbed of justice. You're being used to cover up, and we're being robbed of justice. You are being used to cover up, and we are being robbed of justice. Being on the terrorist list being on the terrorist list gave former President Trump and the above mentioned people the right to unlimited military sources and resources, governmental and other resources, to terrorize people. Not just terrorize people, I'm saying it for myself, to terrorize people. They used it to terrorize people that were doing housing claims or any of that, any form of that. I don't know about the other outside form, but you might as well. If he did it in the housing, I don't know who let him loose. It's almost like nobody stopped him. What happened? What went on? Why are we not dealing with this yet? There are people, I'm sure, by the things that has happened to me, I'm sure that there are people that are not alive right now. Without a doubt, they are not alive. Either they drove off a cliff, either they stepped in front of a train, or whatever the case is. But I promise you, they are not alive. There has to be at least one person from what I've gone through. So with this, because of the size and force that was used to display authority, it was no longer, as I recognized it, as surveillance, which I was okay with it. Well, now, and you should know, all this occurred because the City of Fort Lauderdale Housing Authority needed a reason for me not to move in Camden. So their reason was to put me, they needed somebody to say something. They got somebody to say something. They did. And even when I met the people who were assessing me, I was almost, I don't want to say thrilled to a certain point, but I was happy to meet the challenge, because it's like, get to know me, I get to know you. I don't know what has gone on, but it is what it is. We'll see. So during that time frame, it is my belief, and again, it's my personal belief, that because of the that enormous showmanship, this enormous display of authority, city by city, like clockwork. Anytime you can tell anytime things move in your life like a movie versus the inconsistencies of everyday life, but every day is a consistent and it becomes a pattern as if it's like an actual beat, a rhythm to it. Something's not right. And I'm telling you, the amount of force that was shown, it was so great that I had already pulled back on volunteering and doing other particular things. The force was so great that, and me complaining about it and talking about it, I'm like, and that's when it hit me. I'm like, if you want to surveil somebody, surveil people. It's fine. I'm even happy with it because I'm not doing nothing. I'm good with it. Surveil me. It's fine. But surveillance, there's an art to surveillance. Surveillance is not, you don't know it. You're not supposed to know it. When surveillance gets to a point where you actually know you're being surveilled, you're not being surveilled. You're being gaslit. Pressure is being put on you. You are being stalked, literally. And you have nobody to fight but air. That's the way to describe it. But because of that, and because of me knowing how much it was, I have no doubt in my mind, in my personal opinion, there's no doubt that the lives of the Stoneman Douglas students would not have been taken. By what I know and what I've heard and what we all know with the investigation, and I made sure of this, and you should know I've reached out. I had already tried to reach out to people within Stoneman Douglas, certain family members, when it came to me. Because the thing is, I had a major issue with somebody already calling me a threat to my own community, and as if I love it too much. I love it too much to do a claim against it. More likely to do anything else. I love it too much. I do. So why me? But what happened was, at the end of the day, I went into this article and there was a clause where people when you abuse your authority and when you abuse your powers and you abuse them and then somebody gets hurt, we have an issue. And so the more I started looking at this, wait a minute, because they kept saying about him finding him, and I'm going to go back to my chart here, but they kept talking about not finding him and how he just had a profile on YouTube. Everything was like really there. My presentation to you, or my guess to you, literally is no. It was almost like Trump used the FBI agents as his pimps to pimp other people or to harass other people. This is in my personal opinion, to harass other people that would not give in to claims. How many there are, I don't know, but I know that there are a lot of people, and I know that there's proof in the numbers. So FHEO.com, you look at the number of complaints received, the number of complaints completed, and the monetary rewards. So if you're a pattern lover like me, look at 10 years of received and then look at the years of Trump and see what happened. So the interesting part, the moment that they were asking me, because I knew how dangerous it was, because this type of violation, you can actually file it anonymously, and there's no other violation you could do that with. But I made the decision to do it. And as soon as I made the decision to do it, and me receiving this email, this new email now to put information on for my housing, the email, the paper is like all this red and blue now. And the red and blue, when I saw it, it stuck, it punched my gut. For some reason, it punched my gut. And the reason that it punched my gut for is because the police officers that have been constantly flashing their lights at me necessarily, constantly, there's some type of thing that's going on with light flashing, displaying, making sure, hey, we here. And so by the time I'm reading the paper, I'm like, do I want to fill this paper out now? It's y'all that's doing this. And I'm sure there has been the same experience of others. I don't know how bad, but that's been the same experience of others. And I actually didn't want to get that in depth with it, but I can tell you, without a doubt, those students would have been alive if resources were not geared to look into whatever passed all these investigations. I know friends of mine were even questioned and asked, and I know that the friends were questioned and asked had to have signed one of these. It's a high notch confidentiality kind of treason form if you say anything. This is in Trump's administration, like on lockdown. So anyway, there's no doubt that some people who are closest to me are being used against me, seen as cooperating with authorities. Some have been brought in intentionally by way of manipulating information. If I had to regret something, it would be putting my loved ones in harm's way by involving them in a cause that I chose to take a stand in. And this is also, of course, with my grandmother, who was an interested party in the discrimination claim. A year before her death, I found the courage to make 3 phone calls to DCF for her and for myself regarding abuse. Because what had happened was someone was, again, coaching my mother and particular techniques, psychological techniques and tactics. I know this because it's almost like seeing a person grow in a certain vocabulary or a certain way, and you see them grow like this, and who's teaching? Somebody is teaching you this. There's no, because especially it's like a verbal jujitsu, certain things, and verbal combating and all that stuff, and gaslighting. That not before 2017, which is when my housing voucher was sabotaged. And notably, after my housing voucher was sabotaged in 2017, my mother started getting paid $85,000 a year in untaxable income. And the money that she's getting paid is in my name for some reason, or it's on my behalf because she's claiming me on her. She's claiming me on her IRS form. And when you look on the website, my website, and you go to the report, you'll see it's on page 112 through 115. And the trick to that is me asking her for so long about, what are you doing? Are you working here? Is this going on here? What's happening? Oh, nothing. Everything's fine. Are you sure? Why are you here all the time so long? Why are you no longer sleeping in your room? what happened to the kid? It's so many things that was going on, and it just looked as if she was doing some type of private duty. Didn't know anything until certain forms came in or whatever, which was 3 years later, and this intentionally done that way 3 years later. And after it's done that way, it's like, well, what can you do? And you're looking at it and saying, well, wait a minute, we're still in the middle of this. So wait a minute, we're still getting something still has to be going on. And even to the point of where I'm at now, I think I even did a test where I went to her and asked her, the dentist said I had to pay like $100 and something just to get it cleared and something. And so she told me something about, I can let you borrow some money. If you look on the website and you go to that page 112 through 115, maybe you will get how I feel when you're letting me borrow something that you claiming my name on. I don't get it. So anyway, that form is called U.S. Form 8889 Health Savings Account. And there's something with the autopsy. So autopsy, with her autopsy, my grandmother's autopsy, after she passed and everything, because the reports, DCF reports that were being made, we were already talking about abuse and stuff that was going on. And unfortunately, when she fell backwards, and the first place hit was the back of her head, the second place that hit was the back of her neck, she was partially paralyzed automatically. I had to, me calling 911, they directed me to administer CPR on her. Being then driven to the hospital and seeing her, and then hearing a nurse say that she gave a 94-year-old Tylenol pills to swallow with water. You don't give a 94-year-old pills if you don't know a 94, you don't give that person water to swallow and they're in the hospital if it's not even a traumatic injury going on. This is a head injury, a head and neck injury with partial paralysis, and you in the trauma. What? Something ain't right. So at the end of the day, I want to try to get past this part because it's just so many things happened and occurred at Broward Health. So many things happened here in the house that a lot of people didn't know about, especially about the DCF reports that were basically against my mom and what was going on here. Certain injuries and stuff was going on, and besides the emotional stuff that was going on with me that was intentional, they covered it up. Give you one. So now, for one of these things, I literally had a breakdown at one point where I needed a break. It wasn't a breakout; it was a breakdown. So it wasn't a breakout as in postal; it was a breakdown. And so, because I felt so much pressure dealing with my grandmother, and she was getting worse for some reason, I'm like, why is she getting? Something was speeding up with her. It was off for me. It was off because it was speeding up, and I remember saying that, we need to get somebody in here to aid her. Oh, no, that's what I do. No, what you do is you come in later on and I have to be here with her and I can't even leave the house now. No, I have to leave the house. I need to be able to get into my, my pattern here. No. Oh, well, I will look into that. And so there was a wonderful person that came. that started taking care of my grandmother. Um, and then that stopped. It stopped. My point is coming. So it stopped. She couldn't afford it any longer. That was the um, that was what she was said. She couldn't afford to pay her any longer. Um, so you couldn't afford to pay her any longer, but you kept paying yourself nursing money here when we were actually nursing on her. That don't seem right. You couldn't pay money that you were not even telling us that you was getting paid acting as a nurse toward my grandmother, because that those funds could have went to her. Now let's take it further. My grandmother falling and all this stuff. Okay, there could have been other particular updates and modifications. There could have actually been a person with her right then, side by walking with her, side by side with her before her fall. Because there's an extra five, no, there's not five, 7,100 something dollars a month coming in. That's supposed to be under, it's supposed to be under my name, or it's under her name, but on my behalf, claimed as a child tax something. Then there's this family savings thing, and it's 7,000 something dollars a month coming in, and it comes in on a debit card. I knew about it before. I've never used it, so I never used it since she's had it. Now there was another debit card that she had like that before, like 10 years ago. And that's how I know I'm familiar with it. It's used as a debit card. You just have to say it's for whatever reasons, and that's not really checked either. So now we're up to $340,000. $340,000. People are paying her to do this. So getting back to it, at the end of the day, we went to one of my grandmother's last days, because she had to be incubated, and in her last days, she we thought that she was gonna that God was gonna take her. Thank God she made a 380 turn, and then I started having a conversation with the nurse. Mind you. I'm saying I'm a guardian ad litem. I'm thinking, and I'm also my grandmother's power of attorney. So I dealt with her power of attorney as far as that, and the healthcare surrogate. When that just, those people don't have to be in the forefront. They could be in the shadow. It's just when you see them. And so I finally came out to challenge the situation and the things that was going on. But at the end of the day, getting back to the incubator that she was on, the hospital says, "Oh no, we want to get her off. She is doing so much better. We need to get her off. She is starting to breathe on her own. She's trying to do this. Okay, for those guardians that have supervisors that have had me before, they'll tell you, like, Terry is like detailed to the T when it comes to reporting on a child. It was one of the times that when I had to report on a child, this was as a first responder. They have first responders, where you just go out and just make an assessment. I ran out of characters. So this is what I said. I said, if this is it. It was the moment, like, not necessarily I was waiting for, but it was one of those, you either do it or you don't do it moments. And it was one of those moments that I knew I had to grab it. And if I was going to do it, I'm saying, no. If I'm doing this for the guardian ad litem, this sister right here getting times 2, if not times 3. She can double it. So as analytical, and And I promise you, they know me. I promise you, ChildNet or DCF knows me. Some of the case we've had. People know me people know me. So if I'm that way, and it's not a bad thing. It's just when you're able to understand particular things, and you're able to stay with people, meaning stay in the conversation, in the dialogue that you're having, and to be able allow the iron to literally sharpen iron. The kids are coming here, they're traumatized. It's almost like me with my I want to say my boys, but me being the surrogate father of my nephews, my two nephews that were here. My biggest accomplishment, how I think about it, is that they're no longer on Social Security, meaning they're not dependent on Adderall medications that they can't afford by the time they get off of Social Security, by the time they get 18 and stuff. So I think of it almost in the same term. You don't want to put no more on the taxpayers. Then you can empower the person. So how do we empower this person? That's how I think about it. So getting back to the hospital, I was on money. I was on money so much that we talked for 40 minutes. I wrote everything down, asked even the spelling of certain medications. I went back and repeated what she told me to make sure what I had written down was correct. We were talking about her home, coming home, speech therapy. But the problem was we couldn't do any of that due to the error already made within the hospital. She had a catastrophic injury. She went into the hospital to develop before being treated for her injury. Now into pneumonia. Aspiration pneumonia. So at the end of the day, the next morning I got a phone call and I was told, Mr. Brewer, oh yeah, well, it looks like she's going. What do you mean she's going? Well, we can't. We have the DNR. Well, to take the DNR off, it was heparin that they could have issued her and stuff like that, not the chest compressions. Limited. So, oh well, we can't do that. You have to talk to a doctor, and they had me on hold with the doctor. And then after have me on hold with the doctor finally comes on, and I'm saying, Doc, just take the DNR off to give her the heparin so we can get her. She was 100. She was just 380 because she needed. If you see what's in her lungs, if you knew what was in her lungs, you would understand. She basically didn't have any. You would understand. Now, and it'll go into it later. But and if you guys are still here with me, but at the end of the day, that's what happened. That's what occurred. And so I was told that we'll see. And the next thing you know, I was called and told me that, oh, she passed. Okay. Here's the problem. The problem with that is that they knew that she was dying. The problem with that is that in the intensive care unit that she was in, there is a 1-to-1 ratio. So those stats and what she was dealing with her breathing and stuff, her stats would have literally decreased to the point where, you know what, we're going to have to put her back on. So somebody needs to tell the family before 12 hours, before however many hours it was, until the point that I've heard now that because she was straining to breathe, she had a massive heart attack before the doctor told me that she's going to die anyway. You know, hearing that over the phone, all of it, if you just ask me, because it was so weird, all of it was to, I think people were trying to agitate me. I think they were trying to agitate me. And especially with the funeral, I think people were trying to agitate it. They were trying to agitate me. I just need the attorney to get further into it. But with there was an interesting thing with the autopsy, and it was talking about three, I believe, certain areas of her lungs. I think it was talking about 3 areas of her lungs, 3 parts of her lungs that were basically collapsed. And the upper part, there was only one side of the upper part that then the pathologist said expanded, enlarged itself because it was compensating for everything else that was no longer moving. So her lungs collapsed on her. And she has, I believe, forgot the term of it, but it's like, it's definitely 180 cubic centimeters of frothy liquid in her airway when she passed. So, and it can be converted to, in a way, 6 ounces, you think about. So wait a minute. She basically had a half of a lung. She had 6 ounces, and you still had her off a breathing machine. Or how long did it take her to get to that point? Because remember. And so then you give a call to say, oh, no, it don't work that way. I've been around too long to know and to have an understanding of being able, because it wasn't a heart attack. It wasn't an immediate heart attack. She didn't have, Mr. Brooks, she had a stroke and things just fell down from there. Nope. Her heart rate, the only thing people kept saying was her heart rate was going down. That was the underlying thing, was her heart rate was going down. Her heart rate was going down because she was trying to breathe off of the ventilator. So anyway, my plea is to the president. I'm asking you, Mr. President, if you and Madam Vice President, if you go online to terrybrewer.com and you either hit report or go into the FHEO investigators portal part, and you read between page 141 through page 144 specifically. This was starting since June the 23rd, 2021. So June 23rd, 2021, where I was trying to type up this claim here of retaliation because I knew 365 days, am I going to make it? So I made a phone call. And on the call I left a voicemail reporting multiple violations of Section 88, multiple violations of Section 818 and Section 901. Later on, this lady from Equal Opportunity called me, and she said she was a specialist. She said okay to assisting because I needed assistance to gather all the information together. I have a storage bin that I'm paying for that I need help with now because it's hard to pay for the storage bin. But she basically stated that she was just taking the general information and all the notes and any of the necessary information. I may have to say it again, so she may not jot everything down. What was the flag? So in February, I asked her about the referring complaint. She wanted to make sure that the complaints were put together, or that the complaints matched the retaliation. And without a doubt, it was February 20th, 2019, but she didn't have on the list the complaints that were done in November the 3rd, 2016, complaint December 18th, 2017, another one December 19th, 2017. I beg of you to please look into that particular part, because she told me that someone would be calling me back. The next day, somebody will be calling you back, Rose. If not today, it'll be the next day that somebody will be calling you back. And I didn't get a call back. There was no call back. There was actually a person stating she cut the conversation off. Actually, towards the end, she cut the conversation off, and said that someone will be calling me back. If not Friday, it will be Monday to conduct the interview, the official interview, so we can get what's going on. Now, I am a person, Mr. President and Madam Vice President, that has read the investigative manual for FHEO. I need to understand. I'm the kind of person, like, I want to know what. I have LLI, low latent inhibition. So I'm the kind of person I want to know why. I like that why thing. So the better I understand why is the better I can accommodate the investigators or into what they need. So I don't waste it. So you don't waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste nobody's time, especially if I don't have no claim. I don't waste nobody's time. But on Monday, I didn't receive a call. I got a message sent to an old email address stating, unfortunately, we need more information. You must answer all of the questions and provide a connection to what happened because of the identified protections. She cut the conversation off. I didn't cut it off. From the moment she's heard me start saying Broward County and start going up on that list and who it was, and then Broward Health, Rosetta Herring, and that was it. So I really ask. I haven't even, for the initial determination, I hadn't even officially gotten the letter yet. The letter that supposedly have evidence into what the reason why that they could not find anything wrong, that they couldn't find any wrongdoing. I didn't get that letter with that came with the packets. When I spoke with the Congressman Hastings' office, they were told that UPS, United States Postal Service, said that the package was too large, that it could not be delivered. The package couldn't be delivered in my P.O. box, Mr. President. That doesn't happen that way. They have slips in the P.O. box. You go there. I check the P.O. box all the time, and no. So something's wrong. And to be honest with you, within that part, they told at the time, Congressman Hastings, that I had a attorney. Never had an attorney. And the attorney name that is on there, it's interesting because he was on this, just underneath the floor of the firm that represents the city of Fort Lauderdale. Why that attorney happens to be my attorney now, and then me calling, I don't have no idea what you're talking about. Never represented you. So my plea to the military. My apologies for me being fatigued, but my plea to the military, to those in the military, I pray you're still watching right now. I pray you're still on. I respect y'all jobs wholeheartedly. It's a very very in depth a thing that our nation's intelligence community does in making sure we stay protected. So I'm making a plea to the military, people in the military, to the intelligence community, and government to please help me by validating my account. I just need help validating it. Just confirm it. About City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Broward Health, or whatever, everything. Just confirm it. However it happens. I'm asking someone. I'm asking somebody. Because me, I don't own a whistle. I don't own a whistle. You know, it's like I understand how important it is to obey orders. However, there must be a way to protect our citizens, those that can and those that are most vulnerable. You know, we can't be told to see something, say something if the people who are watching over who excuse me, we can't be told to see something, say something if the people who are watching out for our national security can't validate it. We cannot be told to see something, say something. I'm talking about the creme de la creme to the top, not local. We're talking about national stuff. We're talking about governmental affairs. We're talking about the intelligence community. We're talking about see something, say something. We cannot be told to see something, say something, as I relate back to my Bible verse. If people who are watching out for our national security can't validate it. I want to, again, direct it on the, I guess, as far as Mr. Dale Holness, as far as he's concerned with this, there's no way that this could have gone on, especially with me going to the Camden Los Olas, Jason Reed racially steering me. There's no way he didn't get a phone call. There's no way he was not alerted of a situation such as this. Just the same as my mother, I hold him accountable for my grandmother's death just the same as well. I do. Because you knew about it. You also knew things was going to be gaslit. You know, for the people who don't know, you should look it up. Gaslighting is not, it's not just emotional abuse. Gaslighting is it's an intentional intentional infliction. It's not like an outburst, like because I'm tired. And no, it's a person who is intentionally inflicting on you on some real dangerous stuff, especially if they're coached on it. So I just want to get started with this. I want to get started with this. Going back to the intelligence community, I want to get started with this. I know somebody out there. But I can't even reach. None of my letters can't even reach. Uh, can't reach the letters. Can't reach United States Congressman office without somebody saying um, something about an anthrax issue, as if there was an anthrax issue with my package. Other people receiving packages, I don't think that they got what I sent. I don't think some text messages, people are receiving some text messages that I send. Um, Now, here's the moment to think about it. I'm in Florida, but we're in Florida. Are we still? Do we have two presidents or do we have one? That's my question. Yeah, that's my question. Do we have two presidents or do we have one? Because I'm under the understanding that it's Joe Biden. But however, my stuff can't get to Joe Biden because former President Trump is still, he has to be the one that's still interjecting and intervening in all these different avenues. And those people who made those deals and you signed, I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with it. But we only have one president. And before anybody come off on me about Trump or anything else like that, you really don't, you don't know me. You don't know. Most of my friends thought I voted for Trump. They thought I voted for him because I was speaking about certain marketing tactics, and because I'm excited about marketing. Oh, you think I'm voting for him? But people thought I voted for him, and then I was a Republican at the time. Was don't bring it on me because I'm talking about Trump. What I'm doing here, and if you're listening, you have to know that non-for-profit organizations are a business. Homeless shelters are a business. Every time you give your money, you have to know what people are doing with your money. Taxpayers. That's my biggest thing. So at the end of the day, I thank you once again for listening. Actually for your prayers. But the money definitely we're looking to retain, defend, and pursue all legal avenues. I just need the help. I just need the help. Administratively, to recruit specialists, to create a plan of action to offset the damage caused by modern housing discrimination tactics. Surveying, Zoom meetings, and web development. Certain printings, my ink is running out. I don't have the ink monies for ink, and I don't have it. I don't. Not at all. So I thank God for you listening. I thank God for your investment. And I tell everybody, stay blessed. I have nothing against anybody. Even the close friends of mine that I know, you know, because that up there, I don't get in the way of him. I'm scared of his wrath already. So I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with that. I just want peace. And the only way I can get peace right now is I need to obtain an attorney. It's very important that I obtain an attorney because people walk over you. The court has walked over me 6 different times with a restraining order with detailed information. Cops have come here, and DCF workers have come here, and I'm trying to show them the paper, the tax paper, which in the investigation, that's what it shows. It's for, what is it? The whole thing of whether you're taking advantage of somebody's money and that kind of thing. And the only way you can do all that is that if you're giving financial documents, you take a look at them. If you did ask Miss Herring, are you working here? Because that's all that would have been the question. To put her on the spot, and then we can deal with it from there to actually have somebody for my grandmother. If DCF did their job, she would be alive. Not the thing about, and if it's pushback on me, because they sent me something when they closed the case out. They closed the case out stating that they found no evidence of abuse or anything. But what we're going to do, we're going to offer you services. One was some type of respite and home care or something like that. Okay, so when you look at it and you read the law of me, I just go back in and read it. Then I not only go back in and read it, I go into their investigative manual and I'm reading, okay, wait a minute. Not on any of these examples are we just giving away services for nothing. Something occurred for services to be given. Because it says the following services are to be given in order to alleviate or prevent further abuse. That's what it said on the form. So now don't tell me you didn't find nothing, but it's saying we're giving you services, but on top of that line it says the following services are given to you to prevent further and intervene in the current abuse situation. You found something. I was prevented from getting the records. It is what it is. That's another story. I hope something happens. I pray something does happen. Pray my strength. And yeah, it's very funny. I even have people now texting me like they're fake Ben Crump. A Ben Crump text was fake. But someone even sent me an address to Ben Crump when I was trying to mail Ben Crump. They sent me to a Morgan and Morgan address over there where it just seemed off. Ben Crump ain't gonna had certain. I was just looking at some don't seem right. And so when I went there, it was Cole, Scott, and Kassane. And their involvement was protecting the school board, dealing with the shooting. Everything and every time I've talked about the shooting, y'all, about people need to be held accountable if they use the other resources on citizens that had nothing to do with what they said or that they forged just to surveil or to suppress the citizens' rights. And over here, that could have prevented a situation because those resources would have been available and not so focused on something because you're losing a deal. Ounces of blood is a lot more than a deal. God bless you. Have a great night. Stay blessed.